Such a pleasure to be with you right here on the India Development Debate on ET Now. I'm Supriya, Shrinate, and with me Sandeep, Gurumurthy. And what a political slugfest Karnataka is seeing. Round 2 of that pot boiler, Yeddyurappa is in the middle of it in a highly controversial decision that could set stage for large-scale horse trading. Governor Vajubhai Vala has invited the legislative party leader of the BJP, which emerged as the single largest party in the just concluded assembly polls, to form the new government in the state. Yeddyurappa will be sworn in as the new chief minister of the state at 9:30 a.m. tomorrow morning. It is understood that the governor's decision comes after consultations with legal and constitutional experts, and one of them was the former Attorney General Gurumurthy. The Congress has already made it clear that it will move Supreme Court challenging the governor's decision.
It was high drama through the day, starting with JDS chief ministerial candidate Kumaraswamy accusing the BJP of trying to poach his MLAs with a 100 crore rupee bounty. He then led a delegation of Congress and JDS leaders to the Raj Bhavan and submitted the letter of support signed by 117 MLAs, although that obviously was not enough to convince Vala. The governor may have used his discretionary powers, but it raises some pertinent questions. What is Vala's justification for this decision when the numbers are clearly not in the BJP's favour? Why are the rules different for Goa and Manipur on one hand and Karnataka on the other? The new law in Indian politics, that's our topic of discussion tonight on the India Development Debate. And for that big debate, we're joined by a really special panel on the show this evening. Bishwajit Bhattacharya, former Additional Solicitor General of India; R. Jagannathan, Editorial Director, Swaraj Magazine; Satvik Verma, corporate lawyer; Vivek Reddy, representing the BJP; and Sanjay Jha, national spokesperson of the Congress party. Jaggi, I'm going to start off with you. This has turned out to be a massive potboil, and what we're given to understand now is that the governor has finally invited BJP's chief ministerial candidate V.S. Yeddyurappa to take oath as the chief minister of the party. The Congress party is obviously crying foul, calling this move illegal. Do you believe the governor has done the right thing, has used his discretionary powers effectively?
I think the governor would have been better off calling the two parties which did cross the 112 mark. That would have been the ideal situation, but he has not done anything illegal because he does have options. In fact, the only time in a governor's life where he has true executive power is at the time when government formation is there. That is when he has discretion, and that is when he can use his discretion to decide what he thinks is the ideal thing. And so in this case, there are precedents in both directions. That is, you can call the post-poll coalition, which seems to have the majority, or you can call the single largest party in whose favor the mandate appears to be. So I think one has a moral justification because both the other two parties did not fare as well. The Congress lost huge ground, and even the JDS lost some degree of ground in a lot of things. So you have basically two losers deciding to become winners. So there is a moral justification for it. But I think in terms of the numbers, assuming that the numbers hold, actually the governor would probably, on balance, should have probably called Mr. Kumaraswamy to take first shot at forming a government.
Mr. Bhattacharya, if I may ask you, and more from a legal point of view, I understand that there is a moral and a political dilemma of sorts. Who do you let two losers come together and form the government? But if you go by precedent, and most of these decisions by governors in the past and otherwise have been taken with precedent. The precedent was set in Goa and Manipur and Meghalaya, where the single largest party was not invited, and the coalition that had the numbers was invited to form the government. Why did the governor, you believe, chose to do away with a very recent precedent? I know single largest party has been invited before, but those are older precedents. The recent precedent is that you invite a coalition like it was done in these three states.
You see, the governor has clearly breached two judgments of the Supreme Court. One is, sort of Rameshwar Prasad, and the other is last year Goa judgment of 14th March, which clearly states that if other groups form a sort of majority, then the governor ought to have considered them first. The same principle was followed in Goa, in Manipur, in Meghalaya. Although the governor has discretion under Article 164 to appoint the chief minister, but that discretion is circumscribed by judicial decisions. Article 164 has been interpreted by the Supreme Court n number of times, and the governor is supposed to preserve, protect and defend the constitution. Now, the governor has not given the idea that it is preserving, protecting and defending the constitution. However, if JDS and Congress, they have given a list of 117 or 118 members of Legislative Assembly, then they should on the floor of the House, these 117 or 118, now if it changes to 103, then whom do you blame? Do you blame the bribe givers and exonerate yourself that we have been bribed? So, therefore, this reflects total potential debasement of the politics to which the things have stooped. Now, there are allegations of 100 crores being received. Absolutely. You spend 5 crores to fight an election approximately, and you yield a profit of 95 crores allegedly. Howsoever imaginary the allegation may be, but a potential chief ministerial candidate making an open statement that 100 crore was offered and the entire world is watching, I mean, there's something has to be done about it, and this kind of duplicity which the governors of different states are playing, now this has to halt.
Okay, I take that point. I want to pick on a point that you made earlier on, because we're trying to figure, before we get to the politics of it and we take it to the BJP and the Congress, let's just get the legal nuance right. And Satvik Verma, Mr. Bhattacharya referred to it as well in the Rameshwar Prasad case in 2006. The Supreme Court held, and I quote, if a political party with other political parties takes a claim and satisfies the governor about its majority, the governor cannot refuse on a subjective assessment that majority was cobbled by unethical means. No such power has been vested with the governor. The governor is not an autocratic political ombudsman. In light of this ruling by the Supreme Court, are the actions of the governor today grey, or would you term them as illegal as the Congress party is doing?
Sandeep, that's a great question. I think it would be fair to term the decision of the governor as clearly being grey. I think one thing we need to clearly, clarify that, and we've seen this all over Twitter all through the day, that this has really become a dance of democracy. Unfair rules are being applied, and you know what? What's good for the goose should be good for the gander. And that's not happened, because in 3 instances that you and Supriya mentioned yourself, the Goa, Manipur and Meghalaya, the largest party was not called. In fact, from what happened in Goa, Sandeep, what happened is the fact that, BJP and the other MPs paraded with their numbers, and when the matter came to court, the Supreme Court actually said we need to have a floor test, and the floor test was conducted sort of within a span of 36 hours. But be that as it may, at this stage, JDS and Congress have a post-poll alliance in keeping with the law, because one of the things that we need to clarify, Sandeep, and it must be understood, is that in making the decision, even if there is no subjectivity and even if he has the discretion has to be exercised with some degree of responsibility, because, yes, it is perhaps not subject to judicial review, but if it's laced with malafide, and I'm not alleging malafide against a constitutional sitting functionary, not at all, but if it is alleged, then the courts can question that to actually determine whether or not the allegations are true. And that would actually be a very unfortunate position, because the role of the governor is actually in our constitution much above all of this. But the important part that I was going to say, Sandeep, is that we also need to understand that the governor, while making its decision, has to see, which has been laid down time after time by the Supreme Court, on whether the person who's taking charge is able to form a stable government. Now, clearly, if the single largest party in Karnataka at present does not have even, is only around the 78 number, then is it possible for it to sort of put together a government which can by any shape, manner or form be termed as a stable government? in my respectful submission, I don't think that seems likely. The governor should have called the post-poll alliance, which seems to have the numbers and is perhaps likely and more in a position to give a stable government.
Mr. Reddy, just wait for your turn, because I'm going to come to you with this entire argument that the post-poll alliance had higher numbers than you. You were still short by about 9 odd numbers to get to 113. And even if we were to go by the abstention numbers, BJP, if the arithmetic is to add up, 14 Congress or JDS MLAs will need to abstain to win the trust vote. Please help me understand, how is this going to work? Will they do this by the goodness of their heart? Because that is clearly not going to happen. We know how this will happen. On national television, how will BJP get the numbers that it requires to either win the trust vote or will get the MLAs to abstain to win the trust vote? Go ahead, Mr. Reddy.
Well, now let me just clarify on the legal parameters, because this is constitutional law and there are enough decisions that throw light on this subject. First of all, the judgment on this subject, Rameshwar Prasad's case, says that the basis of this call by the governor is in an order of priority. Those parties with pre-poll alliances get the priority, and if not, there is the single largest party that gets the call. What I'm asking is that kindly don't compare other states, because each state has a different political landscape and a political terrain on the basis of which governors may have acted there. In any case, in Karnataka, the situation is the Congress and JDS have fought against each other, even the BJP, in all the 224 constituencies. If we have fought against each other bitterly in the 224 constituencies, there is no sort of an alliance between any of us. And the people have chosen the BJP and have marked and flagged the BJP to rule the state by giving them the numbers very near to the majority. So the balance that is required is what is to be considered here. On the other hand, if people who have fought in 222 constituencies, the JDS and the Congress, have been rejected by the people, and they, in a bid of opportunism, they try to stitch in an alliance on the counting day, and even before the counting results are out, they rush to the governor. What sort of an opportunism is this, and how can this be justified? This is what I am asking, and I don't think any judgment answers this greed. This is totally immoral. And the people of Karnataka have charged the BJP, given the numbers, and said go out and form the government.
Vivek
that
Reddy,
is what we are testing today.
Vivek Reddy, I don't think anyone. Vivek Reddy, I don't think anyone is going to question the fact that the mandate of the people of Karnataka is against the Congress party, and we will ask that question to the Congress party. But before that, Biswajit Bhattacharya, I think he's raised a point, and I think as a legal expert, you need to clarify this issue on order of priority. I like the way he said that political landscape is different in Goa and in Karnataka. What he's basically saying is there, it was the BJP that was to be the beneficiary, Congress was to be the beneficiary, so the terms were different. Here the BJP is the beneficiary, so the terms are different. Nice way of putting it as saying political landscape is different. But Biswajit Bhattacharya, the larger point is on the order of priority. We understand the order of priority is pre-poll alliance first, then single largest party, and then a post-poll alliance. But does that hold only as far as the parties being able to convince the governor that they have the numbers to form a stable government? Is that critical as well? Is that the basis on which this entire order of priority is underpinned?
You see, this is ultimately a plain and simple number game. It is not a sort of rocket science. So, until and unless the governor is convinced that a stable government can be formed, no hard and fast rule is there. The discretion is of course with the governor, but here when 117 names are being given, 117 names are being given, and the other side has not been able to give more than 104 names. Maybe plus perhaps one. It was preposterous on the part of the sort of governor to have invited a block which is showing only 104. The other block has already shown 117. At the end of it, again I repeat, it is a number game, and the governor, again I just repeat, has to defend, preserve and protect the Constitution of India. This discretion under Article 164 it is not a liberty to license like on the basis of ipse dixit, governor will invite X or Y. There has to be a basis. But I have one very serious issue which I have been asking myself, which I have not been able to sort of reconcile. If governor has breached the Supreme Court judgment, if governor has done something wrong, morally, ethically, constitutionally, then why can't Congress and JDS remain solidly united till the floor test and prove the governor wrong?
I think we've got the Congress spokesperson Sanjay Jha back on this. And Sanjay Jha, I would want you to take that question head on. Why don't you just put your flock together and take them on? Because there is this lack of confidence, which is why the Eagleton Resort has been booked, which is why your MLAs are being herded in buses to that place. I mean, the reality also is that you believe you will not be able to hold your flock together. So that's question number one. And question number two is, the governor's decision could be grey. Yes, Mr. Bhattacharya perhaps would disagree with me, but the governor's decision many people are calling grey. But to call it completely illegal, isn't that stretching the argument a little too far? Because there is a precedent on both sides and he could have picked up both choices.
Supriya, just give me a brief moment to respond to this. But, you know, I was off your channel, but I briefly heard the BJP spokesperson make a comment, and yours is a very respected channel, that the constitutional provisions are different for different political landscapes. I haven't heard a more absurd, if I can say irrational and stupid statement from anybody for a long time. The constitution applies, and it applies universally and absolutely the same way to all states. Basically, that is a statement of political convenience. Let me answer to you in brief.
Stupid comments.
Firstly, the BJP needs to tell the people of India.
Refrain from doing it.
The BJP... Well,
come to you after that.
Well, let me tell you, my dear friend, I did not interrupt you. You can respond. You can call my comment whatever you like later. But at the moment I'm speaking, don't interrupt me.
Please let him complete.
Please be civilized and don't be disgraceful by interrupting me.
Go ahead, Sanjay, make your point.
Yeah,
but don't
let me make my comment here. He can call my comment whatever he likes later. I don't care a damn. Yeah. Anyway,
complete your point.
अरे जरा दूसरों को भी सुना करो यार, भाई साहब. Anyway, yeah. So let me make this point here. First, the BJP needs to tell the people of India that whether the 100 crores being offered to buy out the MLAs was with GST or without GST. Let us know that fact. Point number two, very important. And I have studied law. I may not be a lawyer, but I have studied law. And I know enough to tell you, which I presume the two lawyers on the panel will confirm. Read the Rameshwar Prasad versus the Union of India judgment, which was delivered in 2006 on the Bihar elections. And then read what the Supreme Court has said when we took the matter of the Goa issue, where again the BJP hijacked that government, to the Supreme Court. Let me read out to you what the Rameshwar Prasad judgment is of the Supreme Court of India. It says, and
Sanjay, while you were away, I read that judgment.
The
Sanjay,
governor cannot refuse.
Sanjay, I read that exact part while you were away.
Now let me add a point. Yeah. All right. Now let me tell you what the judgment says. The judgment is not just about a pre-poll alliance. It also talks about a post-poll alliance. Number two, on the March 14, 2017 on Goa, the Supreme Court said, well, if there is a coalition that believes that it is larger than the single largest party, they have to prove it on the floor of the House. Now, you have a situation today where the government's job or the governor's job was to ensure a political determination that the JDS and the Congress, which has given letters already confirmed, signed by our MLAs, saying that we have 118 MLAs with 2 independents. Why hasn't the governor tested it out? Basically, let me tell you, the governor is a political appointee. He was a member of the Narendra Modi cabinet in Gujarat, and this is legitimizing horse trading. What will the BJP do? Now, I heard the BJP spokesperson say, well, the JDS and the Congress contested each other. So, what did the BJP do? They were basically
Sanjay,
having a romantic snooze with
Sanjay,
the BJP.
Let me interrupt you. I take
JDS.
that point, but you're not answering Supriya's specific question on why aren't you confident of keeping a flock together? Why don't you prove the governor? Why don't wrong by winning by defeating them in the trust vote?
Let me answer that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I forgot to answer that. Let me tell you, this will be the shortest government in Karnataka's history. It will be defeated on the floor of the House. But what is a monumental shame is that between now and the time that the government gets defeated on the floor of the House, you'll find a corrupted political system. You'll find the BJP using Enforcement Directorate, income tax, CBI threats, allurement of money to vitiate the entire political environment. That is an unfortunate truth. But the fundamental question you should ask is, do we need to go through this constitutional crisis where we may have to move the courts simply because at the end of the day the governor wanted to deny a legitimate two political parties with two chief ministers, one current chief minister who's outgoing and a former chief minister who have made a claim. And by the way, the Congress party had this plan B ready earlier than the BJP. They are feeling checkmated. This is an attempt to, again, I would call, make the governor's office one of a political puppet. Okay. It's a tragedy of Indian democracy, and I hope the people of India will respond to the Narendra Modi, Amit Shah model of governance in future elections and in 2019.
Vivek Reddy, I'll give you a chance to counter that, but I need to go to Jaggi first. Jaggi, you heard what Sanjay just said, and I think that the reason why people are worried about this outcome more than anything else is what happens between now and whenever the trust vote happens in the floor of the House. Are we going to go back to the days of 2008? Is this going to be a complete replay of what happened in 2008? One would imagine that the BJP of 2008 would be different from the BJP of 2018, rather would be different from the BJP of 2008. Is that what is getting people like you worried?
Yeah, I mean, what we are actually going to see is a lot of money power to get people on this side and a lot of money power to retain people on the other side. Let's not assume that there is only MLAs being bought by people who may need more MLAs. They are also being paid by people who want to retain them. So let's not forget, when there is a market for MLAs, it works on both sides. It's not as if some MLAs stay with you for free while others are bidding for them. So we are actually in a very terrible situation where I think the right thing for the Congress and JDS to do is to keep their flock, defeat the BJP if they can't get the numbers, and prove it thing. I think that will send a very strong message to the polity and to everybody else that this is the way to go. And once you prove that, I think future actions like this will not happen. You just need to do that. Exactly. And I think there is no need to go rush and say that, oh, you are now giving Yeddyurappa a chance to buy up some MLAs or whatever it is that you think is being attempted. So I think this is the only way to answer whatever is being done. If you think it is wrong, then okay, prove that it is wrong, get your numbers right and rule. I mean, there is nothing that stops you. Let's not forget, in 1996 when Vajubhai was called, there was a fair assumption that he would not win the trust vote, and so he came up to the debate and then resigned when he saw that he didn't get the thing. Maybe the same thing could happen with Yeddyurappa if he hasn't got the numbers.
17th April 1999.
No, in 1996 was the first government which lasted 13 days.
Okay, I want to go back to, a very, very basic, simple question. I'm not going to quote historical judgments. I'm going to talk about the present situation and a follow-up to what Jaggi said, that this interim period is important because this is where we will see the ugly, dirty side of Indian politics, which is where money will exchange hands to either get people or to retain people, and that's the tragedy of our politics. That's the tragedy of how every MLA has today become 100 crore or so. Mr. Reddy, how are you going to get to that number? How will you ensure that either you have additional 9 MLAs, or how will you ensure that you make 14 people abstain to win the trust vote in the House? Will you commit on ET now this evening that you will not indulge in any horse trading, that out of the goodness of their hearts, MLAs will not vote for you? Because this has never happened. It never happens in politics like that. Mr. Reddy?
Well, I'm really astonished at the sort of accusations being heard by the various panelists on the horse trading. I think the panelists are aware and are trying to pretend lack of knowledge about Kumaraswamy's methods. Those who have seen Mr. Kumaraswamy for all these years know that he is prone, he is very indulgent in making such reckless accusations without any basis.
Without any basis. Your question,
so we cannot take him We cannot take him for reality. And if you are going to be, if they are going to be distracted or entrapped with such ideas, it is up to them. But the larger issue is this: has the governor acted within constitutional parameters? Merely because you've shown the numbers.
No, that's not the larger issue. No, Mr. Reddy.
Implicitly
Mr.
call
Reddy,
you or immediately
Mr. Reddy,
call you.
Vivek Reddy, that's not the larger issue. No, that's not my question. I have asked you a very direct question. No, Mr. Reddy, I am not a commentator on the show. I am the anchor of the show, and I'm asking you direct. Mr. Reddy, you can. Let's not go back to the governor's role. I am asking you a direct question.
Yes.
Where will you get the MLAs from, and how? Answer that question for me this evening.
We will see, ma'am, ultimately what is a confidence motion of a government? It is based upon the debates that happen on the floor of the House and upon the conscience vote of the legislators. Well, that is what we are going to see on the basis of the debates on the floor of the House. And why BJP must be there as a majority. And if anybody has doubts about that, it's up to them. But it is for the MLAs to vote. It is for the MLAs to vote, and let them take the call for voting. How can we assume, or in any manner we can say, how can we say, are we testing the floor now? It has to be tested on the floor of the House, on the basis of the debates.
Vivek Reddy, you're
and
not
that is the ultimate test.
Vivek Reddy, I don't envy you. You're not convincing anyone. The only problem is, Sanjay Jha, the Congress party cannot take a high moral ground on this issue for sure. The panel is witness to many such instances where the Congress has deployed similar tactics. So, before I go to Satvik Verma, I want to go to Jaggi just to put this in perspective. You know, Jaggi, have BJP having positioned itself as a party with a difference. You know, Vivek Reddy spoke about Kumaraswamy. I think people have, expect certain actions from, certain political parties. The BJP is the one that has positioned itself as a party with a difference. The BJP is the one that has positioned its leader as anti-corruption crusader and whatnot. Will it hurt the BJP if over the next couple of weeks, if it were to be seen as a party that is indulging in horse trading? There's no other way it's going to win the trust vote. I'm assuming it wants to win the trust vote. Will it hurt the image of credibility? I'm quoting Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw here, eminent citizen, who's basically saying that the BJP should stand on a moral high ground and allow an awkward coalition and prevent any act of political fence hopping. Like I said earlier, the BJP of 2018 is expected to be different from the BJP of 2008. Jaggi.
Look, I don't think any party in India has the right to claim the high moral ground. And if forget about Karnataka, even earlier you think when large numbers are moved about in Arunachal or to get the numbers elsewhere, you think these things happened purely out of internal goodness of the heart of the MLAs concerned. So these things have been happening in this thing. Only thing is, I think what happens is Prime Minister Modi has managed to insulate himself personally from direct allegations related to that, but the party is not immune from this. So I think the BJP is hoping this dichotomy where the Prime Minister's own personal probity is above question, but the party will do anything to get power. I think they are hoping that this public accepts this dichotomy. That is the basis on which they are trying to get governments in places where they need to adopt sharp practices. That's exactly what is being done. I think so far he has managed to retain his personal probity issues separate from the party, and that's what we are probably likely to see. But we don't know whether Karnataka is too big a state for the party to avoid the train, but we will know only post facto. We will not know it now.
I want to take this across to Satvik. In Satvik, Mr. Chidambaram and Mr. Kapil Sibal and Vivek Tanka, some of the top legal of the Congress party, and of course some of the tallest leaders, just did the press conference, and they alluded to the fact that if this is going to be true, they will look at legal recourse. Is there enough ground, is there enough basis for the Congress and in turn the JDS also to challenge the governor's decision?
Supriya, I think that's a good question. Let me answer that in three parts. And I'm going to try and stay out of the politics of this, but I just want to make a comment hearing some of the other commentators, and I will definitely answer your question. You know, what we're really testing is not the numbers on the floor of the House. What we seem to be testing is the strength of the Indian democracy, and at some level, all of this is exposing the cracks of the Indian democracy. What we're also doing, and what one is seeing more and more, and I have had the privilege on being on your show a couple of times in the past as well, what we're also seeing repeatedly is that normal things that should otherwise get settled at the state level through the process and the mechanism that has been enshrined both in our constitution and in terms of constitutional and democratic practices are being breached, as a result of which somehow or the other everything is coming to get rested on the floor and on the steps of our Supreme Court. Now, to answer your direct question, Supriya, is there enough ground for the party that has 117 members to come and challenge it? The short answer is yes. The reason why yes is because Sandeep had mentioned we will witness something over the next couple of weeks. A petition in court, according to me, and I don't know what the petition is like and how it's going to be framed, but these are very seasoned lawyers, they know what they're doing. But I'm almost certain that the petition is going to shorten the time frame for when the floor test needs to be conducted and by when the majority needs to be proved. Taking the Goa case, the Kavlekar case, within 1 day of the Supreme Court's hearing, a floor test was ordered to be conducted. And I hope and wish that for the purposes, nothing else, not to do with the politics, but just for the preservation of our constitutional values that are uniform across Goa, Manipur, Meghalaya, Karnataka, Haryana, everywhere, things like this have been alleged, that this floor test happens sooner than later, so that this speculation that we're talking about, does not take place. One of the other things that we also need to be very careful about is to make sure that we don't have disqualification under the 10th schedule such that the number required to prove the floor test, which I'm wary of as well, that the number required to prove the floor test comes down and then the single largest party is able to stake claim to the government. So I think there are very many different there are very many different facets to this. It'll be interesting to see how this pans out. Sure. And I really hope, as we're all aware, the Supreme Court goes into its summer break in under 48 hours. We will have a vacation bench that will be sitting from 1 day. But there is a lot that's going to, play out. And I just hope that whatever happens, the time period gets shortened to try and prevent any illegalities that
Satvik,
are likely to take place or that sometimes take place when the gap is too large.
Satvik, you made two very valid points, and I think Mr. Bhattacharya wants to come in. I'm going to him, but one is on the time frame, that it needs to be, the longer it is, the worse it is in some sense, and two, on the fact that how political parties have circumvented the 10th schedule of the constitution to suit them politically. Mr. Bhattacharya, quick point from you, and then I need to go to Sanjay Jha, who's been waiting. Mr. Bhattacharya.
Well, first of all, I would agree with Mr. Verma. I would also agree with Mr. Sanjay Jha that the Rameshwar Thakur judgment and the 14th March Goa judgment have been brazenly contravened and violated by the governor. So the petition, if at all, if it is to be filed, will be based on the touchstone of these two judgments of the Supreme Court. Plus, I heard the press conference of Mr. P. Chidambaram. One small error he made. He said Article 141 of the Constitution is binding on the governor. I would respectfully differ with him. Article 141 says all courts are bound by Supreme Court's order. It's Article 144. It is Article 144 which has been breached by the Excellency the Governor, which says all authorities, civil and judicial, shall act in aid of Supreme Court. So therefore, a combination of Article 144, the Rameshwar Prasad judgment and this 14th March judgment of Goa, and couched with the extent of discretion which governor enjoys under Article 164 of the Constitution, I think is going to set a benchmark for the future election, because time has come now once and for all. Contrary to Sarkaria Commission report, all the governors are pawns in the chessboard of our political game. A governor shall hold the office during the pleasure of the president, and the president pays the council of ministers. So a governor's job is less secure than an upper division clerk's job. So therefore, under these circumstances, when you have a constitutional scheme, when a governor, just to keep his job, he will have to please the political masters. And secondly, you give enormous discretion to the person concerned. So what else do you expect from the governor, whether it is X party or Y party or Congress party or Z party?
Absolutely.
All are the same. It is not a party issue. It is a constitutional issue.
Okay.
It is an issue for the larger survival of democracy in India.
Okay.
You cannot take the democracy in India for granted by
Mr. Bhattacharya, allow me to
ignoring
interrupt
180.
you. Mr. Bhattacharya, allow me to interrupt you. I take your point there. I take your point there. Allow me to interrupt you. And I think, you know, no one could disagree with anything that you said in that, you know, in that passionate plea there. But Sanjay Jha, you know, and you've seen us, we're debating the legality of what has happened and the constitutional validity of the decision that has been taken by the governor of Karnataka. And yet, I can't not ask you, is it not a mockery of the mandate of the people of Karnataka that H.D. Kumaraswamy, whose party with less than 40 seats, a party with 17% vote share, is looking to be the next chief minister of a state? The people of Karnataka did not vote to make H.D. Kumaraswamy the chief minister. And no arithmetic can justify that, Sanjay.
Sandeep, first and foremost, I completely agree with what Biswajit mentioned, and I completely agree with what Mr. Verma mentioned. I mean, at the very beginning, let's recognize it. I think your viewers need to know. This is one of the darkest days of Indian democracy. And I'm hoping, and I'm very confident, that the supply side of corruption that the BJP is engineering will be thoroughly defeated on the floor of the House. Whether we take it to the courts or not, you will get to know about it in the next couple of hours. But on your larger question, let's look at the Karnataka verdict. In Karnataka, Sandeep and Supriya, we lost the mandate to govern Karnataka. I agree with that. But the verdict, by the way, is a fractured verdict. No single party has been given the mandate to govern Karnataka on their own. Now, there's a second point. There are 3 political parties and a couple of independents. Now, Karnataka has to have a government that runs it for the next 5 years. Now, 2 political parties, the JDS and the Congress, who, by the way, are already in alliance in Bangalore. If you're aware, in Bengaluru, we run the corporation there together in an alliance. What did Mr. Kumaraswamy say? What did the Congress party say? We believe that the very critical binding factor that makes the ideological compatibility absolutely beyond debate is that the parties both believe in a secular Karnataka and a secular India. The JDS is actually called secular, Congress party believes in secularism, and we all know where BJP stands on it, because the BJP's MP from Karnataka wanted to change the constitution and remove the word secularism. So there is a common bonding between these 2 parties. Now, end of day, the Congress and the JDS said, well, okay, we fought against each other. Frankly, the BJP fought against us as well. So I don't know what the BJP spokesperson meant when he said that we contested against each other. They did the same. So where are they going to get their 14 or the 8 MLAs from? I don't want to even respond to such grotesque comments. Here it is basically saying, well, we have to form an alliance to run a government. And therefore, you make that pitch. Did we get the mandate? We said no, which is why Mr. Siddaramaiah today, by the way, has resigned and said, I take responsibility for a defeat. But you know, Sandeep, to answer your question, you have the most absurd situation in Jammu and Kashmir, where you had 2 parties diametrically opposed, having absolutely no political morality at all, coming together, that is the PDP and the BJP, to run Jammu and Kashmir. One party has a totally different view in terms of whether to talk to the Pakistan or Hurriyat or not, and the other party has an alternative thought, and yet they are together. And the BJP spokesperson has the audacity to come and tell us that we contested against each other. At least we have some similar, shall we say, philosophies on which we want to come together.
All right, Sanjay, you know, I think details are just emerging out of the letter that has been handed over to Mr. Yeddy. So I'm coming to you only, Vivek Reddy. You can make your submission. The details that are coming in from that letter have actually proven that B.S. Yeddyurappa has 15 days, half a month to prove his majority. That really should be a cakewalk then, Vivek Reddy.
It's a
Well,
joke.
why should
It's a
it?
joke.
Because it has to be tested on the floor of the House. And if the Congress and JDS are going to take their MLAs to the resorts, then how should 15 days matter? Well, that is the time, a fair time has to be given by the governor, because it involves a formation of the government and proroguing of the assembly. And the assembly, this is a fresh and new session, and because it is a fresh and new session, the MLAs have to take oath, and after taking oath, the discussions will have to start, the debates will have to start, and the floor test has to be taken. So therefore, it involves some procedure, some complexity.
Can I
This is
respond
one.
to that?
The second thing is, I have heard what Mr. Bhattacharya said and what Mr. Sanjay Jha. Hold on, Mr. Sanjay Jha, you can respond once I answer. I have heard what Mr. Sanjay Jha said and what Mr. Bhattacharya said. All this seems like a very one-sided argument. You know, you'll have to take out your political predilections before you comment on this. The first thing is, the most important issue is, you have a floor test, and for that floor test, there is a political party which has a substantial majority. A substantial majority which is very near to the ultimate numbers. Therefore, the governor has every discretion to choose.
Not a substantial majority.
It is very unfortunate that Mr. Bhattacharya is trying to say this is an illegal move, because this is within the legal parameter of Rameshwar Prasad and the Goa case. In any case, the Goa case only said, take the majority on the floor test. So therefore, when you are within
Sandeep,
the legal
I'd like to come in,
parameter,
please.
the discretion of the governor is based on objective circumstances. Hold on, let me just finish. You went on rambling about it, I didn't disturb. So therefore, once the governor has taken a decision that the largest formulation must come forth, then he has answered to the mandate of the people. It is in consonance with the mandate of the people of rejection, of JDS and the Congress. So therefore, this decision of the governor is absolutely fair and justified. The exercise of discretion is within the legal realm and within the legal parameters of Rameshwar Prasad. I don't think it is right to find fault. Persons who have been defeated by a margin of almost 30 seats to come to the majority. They are very far away from the majority. They have been rejected by the people.
Vivek Reddy,
How
you
can
have
they
made a
stitch
point there.
together
I want
such
to
an
go
alliance?
across to the
It is
experts,
an
and
unholy
I will
alliance,
expect
isn't it?
Vivek Reddy, please don't shout.
And there is one another thing. The people of Karnataka.
We have moved away from that point. Anyways,
Yes, just
no,
a moment.
okay.
I'll just
Vivek Reddy,
complete-
please give me. No, now I can't give you any more moments. I cannot give you any more moment. I will take it across to my experts very quickly to react to this news that's breaking in, which is the 15-day time frame, and I will expect each of you to be a little brief so that I can cover more ground. Jackie, let's begin with you, and then I'll go to Biswajit Bhattacharya. 15-day time frame to prove a majority.
No, I think it's a bit too long, and it's sort of
let things drag on. My guess is that 5-6 days or maximum a week would have been more than adequate. If you think there are a lot of people on the other side who would like to do a conscience vote or whatever it is. And I think anyway we will not have to wait that long, because the Congress is surely going to go to the Supreme Court, and which will probably try and shorten the period. That it gave only 1.5 days or 2 days in Goa. So I don't think they are going to allow the 15-day stretch to continue. So I think the court will probably truncate it.
I would.
Okay, Mr. Bhattacharya.
Yeah, I would agree with my learned, distinguished colleague that this 15 days time under these circumstances, inviting 104 number seats immediately and then given 15 days time, this appears to be a little less than bona fide, if I may say so. And under Article 361, governor enjoys certain immunities. Under Article 164, governor enjoys enormous discretion, but immunity from court proceedings and discretion to exercise his powers does not mean that the excellency, the governor, can give the impression to the world at large that he is also entering indirectly the political thicket. Fortunately, I have a little more sort of freedom to speak. I don't have to take any party line which my distinguished friend Mr. Verma is taking, because he will have to take his party line. I don't have to, and I don't want to, because to me all parties are the same. Okay. And this is not a party issue. This is a constitutional issue. See, when you are donning the hat of a governor, you are the political head of the state. Right. You have to rise above party politics.
Okay, Mr. Bhattacharya,
he is rising.
Okay,
I take that point. He is political.
Okay,
but the perception which is going to the world at large, right, governor's decision is liable to be challenged in a court of law. Okay. If anybody agrees challenges, this 15 days time is too long a period under the circumstances.
Okay, 15 days is too long a period under circumstances. Let me interrupt you. I've just got 6 minutes on the show, sir, and I need to get a word from the other panelists. Satvik Verma, quick point to you. Mr. Bhattacharya spoke about the discretionary powers, but wasn't the foundation for limiting the governor's discretionary power laid down by the 7-judge constitution bench of the Supreme Court in the S.R. Bommai case, which was further fine-tuned in the Rameshwar Prasad case in 2006? So why are we still going back to the discretionary powers of the governor? Hasn't that been sort of, ironed out?
Sandeep, first, I'm not sure where Mr. Bhattacharya gets the fact that I'm affiliated to a party.
Referring to Sanjay Verma.
I just want to set the record straight. I am not connected. I'm not connected to a political party. I think, if you will, I know the time is short, but if you'll also give me the indulgence, I think the Kerala tourism tweet was very reflective.
No, 1 minute. That was not for you. My mistake. I meant Mr. Reddy. Mr. Reddy.
Sandeep, if I may just go on, because you asked two very, very pertinent questions. The S.R. Bommai judgment, Sandeep, originates, as you probably know, from the Sarkaria Commission report. And that Sarkaria Commission report has evolved over time because the polity and the politics of this country over the last 2 decades has substantially changed. Now, I will only read 6 words from the Supreme Court judgment in the Goa matter, which will answer your exact question. The Supreme Court in the Goa matter said, we were satisfied that the instant sensitive and contentious issue raised on behalf of the petitioners can be resolved by a simple direction requiring for a floor test to be held within a span of 24 hours in that case. Therefore, and the point I want to make to your question is very simple, Sandeep. The point I want to make is, it is very unfortunate that all of us on national television are debating the bona fides of a decision of a constitutional functionary like the governor. Be that as it may, and given the fact that the circumstances have come to this period, the longer the time period that has been granted to a party that does not have the numbers is only going to raise more questions. And therefore, when Supriya had asked me this, about 15 minutes ago in the debate, I had said that the petition that will be filed by those who have 117 numbers will be able to demonstrate and reduce the time period, and that will happen most likely in 36 hours before the Supreme Court breaks for its summer break. We cannot allow 15-day time period. The floor test must happen within a period of 24 hours, if not within a period of 36 hours, if not sooner.
And given and given the circumstances, it surely should. But Sanjay, I will come to you because we're discussing the role of the governor. I completely agree with Satvik Verma that I think we're discussing it under very unfortunate circumstances. We should not be discussing the role of constitutional functionaries. They should be bipartisan. But anyways, now when you talk about propriety and morality and history of Indian politics, is completely full of instances where governors have acted at the behest of the central government. You call this governor puppet. There have been puppets in the past as well. In 2005, when Governor Bhutta ordered dissolution of Bihar Assembly, in 98 with the Kalyan Singh government, in 89 with the S.R. Bommai case. I mean, I can perhaps just go on and on about this. So it is not just the BJP that's being partisan about the governors. You've got a lot of tails in your own yard as well.
Well, Supriya, let me just tell you upfront, it's about time we stop treating these constitutional positions as holy cows. Why not? We should discuss them. If the governors like Tathagata Roy make communal tweets, we should discuss them. I mean, the Karnataka governor today, by the way, is not above any particular scrutiny. He should be. I mean, there are questions today being raised on the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of India. So what are we talking about? No institution in the country is sacrosanct and so consecrated that as citizens of India, we can't raise questions. To answer your question, though, let me tell you what is the absolutely irony of the moment. That the JDS and the Congress, within the next 5 minutes, we can demonstrate that we got the majority to run the Karnataka government for the next 5 years. The governor has denied it. What has the governor done? Governor said the party which has got 104, nobody knows, your BJP spokesperson has no answers, but we know Amit Shah and Narendra Modi will try and find an answer with that 100 crore cash. And which is why the people of this country need to ask Narendra Modi, वो 15 लाख रुपए तो हमें नहीं दिए. आम आदमी के लिए 15 लाख नहीं है, लेकिन एमएलए खरीदने के लिए उनके पास 100 करोड़ रुपए हैं. That is the public morality standards we stand in.
Okay. Don't chase your imagination.
Well, that is the answer.
Okay. I don't want the debate to end on this note. I don't want the debate to end on this note, and so I'm going to take it to Jaggi. So I'm going to take it to Jaggi and give him the last word. I don't want the debate to end on this note, gentlemen. So I'm going to take it to Jaggi. Jaggi, you heard the BJP and you heard the Congress. The big question is, are there any morals in politics? I mean, if it is about power, let me ask you a simple question. If the Congress party had got 104 seats, would they not be doing all that they're accusing the BJP of doing to break the JDS or to get their MLAs to abstain? Would it have been any different? So, I mean, what is the stock of morality in politics? Given the state of polity in this country, it is all about the quest, ugly quest for power.
Yeah, I think our polity is hopelessly divided on many fronts, and this is what is being reflected in the parties, and especially in the last 5 or 10 years, the antagonism between the two main national parties has been extremely high, and that is what is being now. Every tussle is seen as a fight to the finish by both the parties. So I think the Congress would have done exactly the same thing, because their argument in Goa was completely the opposite of what they are arguing today. So let's not say, I mean, whenever it suits you, you will use that argument. Whenever it doesn't suit you, you'd use the other argument. So I think, I hope the Supreme Court now makes this a case, a final judgment, where they will say that, look, this is the way you need to proceed, so that governors are not getting into too many discretionary situations, and they have a guideline which have to follow. And I think maybe Rameshwar Rao's judgment was not the right one, or maybe it hasn't answered all the questions. Now you need to put a quietus to this, give a final view on this, so that in future no governor actually needs to keep on doing too much discretion in these areas.
Oh yes, absolutely. Can't thank this wonderful panel enough for that fantastic debate. R. Jagannathan, Satvik Verma, Biswajit Bhattacharya, Vivek Reddy, and of course Sanjay Jha from the Congress Party. Thank you all for joining us in that fiery debate on the decision taken by the Governor of Karnataka. What's certain is that B.S. Yeddyurappa will be sworn in tomorrow as the Chief Minister of Karnataka. He has 15 days to prove his majority. Is that 15 days too much, is what our panel has pointed out. Will these 15 days see the ugly underbelly of politics, with money being exchanged, thrown around by both sides of the political question, and will the ugly quest of power see politics hit a new low, is what we need to wait and watch. Supriya?
Indeed, and just a quick clarification on the behalf of Mr. Biswajit Bhattacharya, his reference to Mr. Verma was not for him. Just to clarify, his political affiliation was a reference to Mr. Jha, Mr. Sanjay Jha, and Mr. Verma and Mr. Biswajit Bhattacharya completely agree on the show. That's a clarification I'm giving on the behalf of our guests. But thank you very, very much, all of you, for tuning in. This is a fantastic debate. Let's see what the Congress Party does tomorrow morning. Moving court is one of the options. Mr. Yeddy gets sworn in. 9 short of that magical mark, and 14 to abstain if that's the way they need to win the House. But it's interesting how the Congress is putting up a spirited fight as well, because I believe in one thing: India needs a very strong government in any state, but India needs an equally vibrant and viable opposition as well.
Thanks for being with us. Good night. Up next is Top 10 at 10.